We got we're using Marissa's fancy little light too, so
Nice. Yeah, you look good. You look handsome. Alrighty.
trying to get like you.
Shh, whatever. All right. We are live. Welcome to Ruin an Hour, a safe place to talk about anything under the sun from sobriety, addiction, depression, anxiety, balance, and life. My name is Kyle Gray. We are live twice a week. Excuse me, once a week. Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We used to be twice a week, but now that I'm doing the King of the Dot Grand Prix, we're once a week. And yeah, we got my good friend Nick on the show today. Some of you might know him
What
as
up?
Lush One. Yo, so Nick, how sober are you? How many months?
9 months sober, clean and sober. Haven't even taken a damn Advil.
Damn, that's impressive.
Not that it's
I'm
not
proud of you.
okay to take Advil, but thank you.
I totally hear what you're saying. But yeah, man. I'm gonna let you kind of drive today. Um, you haven't been on the show in a minute, and you want to talk about the third step today, right?
Yeah, well, I know that this isn't a 12-step based program, but that is the been the cornerstone of my sobriety is utilizing the 12 steps. So everything that I discuss that's based on recovery, I relate it back in one form or another to the 12 steps because that's how I learned how to get clean. It was basically all the habits and all the just tendencies and things that I got became acclimated with while in treatment is like any situation that popped up is like it was a microcosmic example of something that would happen to me in society and how I would deal with that. And those are the tools I utilized for being sober. And the only reason that I'm able to be sober to this day is because I developed those habits in early sobriety. Now, if you look at it on an overall scale, for if I'm this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. I know they say one day at a time, but this is not like I don't have the illusion that I'm going to be able to use drugs recreationally or control my drug use in any capacity. That everybody's different. They say however far down the scale of addiction, however far deep down that rabbit hole you went, is how hard you need to work at your sobriety and recovery. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that was really far down the rabbit hole. So I need a very rigorous program of recovery, or else it's real easy because we've discussed this on the program before, but a relapse isn't just me chopping up a line and snorting it. It's not just me taking a shot. It's not just me rolling a blunt. It's the early things that come up. It's the little proverbial voice in my head saying, "Hey, you don't need to do your daily disciplines today. You don't need to talk to your sponsor. You don't need to go to a meeting. You don't need to go live on Ruin Your Day to discuss sobriety and carry the message to other people who could potentially benefit from it because you're okay. You're in a good place right now. Like you're gonna be all right. You like and those little things just kind of that's called the mental obsession, and that right there is the early. That's when a relapse begins.
Yeah, yeah, totally. How often does that happen to you?
um it's something that I need to watch out for on a daily basis. Like for me, the most important thing is just remaining rigorously honest. And part of my addiction, one of my main character defects, which is pretty common for most addicts and alcoholics, is being a liar. And there's a thin line between being manipulative, being a finesser, telling people what they want to hear to benefit you, even if it's not 100% true, and feeding my own ego, and just being a flat out fucking liar. And for me, like, it's crazy because like my sobriety date is kind of like similar to I have a date of when's the last time I told a lie. And it could be something big, like, you know what I mean? Like, did you do your taxes? You know what I mean? Like, did
Yeah,
you, like, did you steal this? Did you like or whatever that it could be something serious or it could be as like something as small as like did you talk to disaster about the battle today? Did you know what I mean? Like did you lock the undercard battles for the next West Coast event? And in the
Yeah.
past, my answer would be yes, even if it wasn't whatever would like create the softest scenario for me as to where I would be able to not have to deal with whatever repercussions were from like even if it's just the inconvenience of like someone getting irritated at me and reprimanding me, telling me I have to do this or that. Like I would avoid all of that just to because I had my own idea of reality of what it was, and anything that threatened that and my belief systems, I'd be like, I wouldn't want to deal with that. So the urge to do that pops up all the time. Like that's almost on a daily basis, and I have to check myself. And like little small victories, like me being completely honest with people, is something that like I'm super proud of. Like I don't have. I'm used to operating with a web of deceit. You know,
Yeah.
strong and like this bigger than Charlotte's Web. This would have caught Wilbur, and you'd be able to make bacon in that motherfucker. You feel me? Like I was like my lies were just so frequent. So like for me to not have anything like that I'm being dishonest about. I haven't told my fiance something that I didn't tell other people. You know what I mean? I didn't tell. So it's like I have a consistency in my life that takes so much pressure and stress off of me. That in and of itself just reduces the desire to use, but it's something I need to really stay on top of because like the consequences for me telling just a little innocent fib or what they call a white lie that could um that could lead me to use again.
Yeah. That's pretty wild, especially because people that don't go through these steps don't have that. Like, white lies is something that I feel like everybody is super accustomed to because they're used to lying a little bit for the greater good, whether that being like, not telling somebody something or other, I feel like everybody lies a little bit every single day. So being like vigorously honest, I feel like is not only incredibly hard, but honorable too,
Well, and like me having like one of the things that made that really difficult, and it was like habits that I learned in treatment that kind of broke me of this, is having this somewhat fictitious image of myself as like a street dude. So so not wanting to be a snitch when like being honest and being a snitch are not mutually exclusive. And I'm at the
Yeah.
point in my life I don't do any criminal activities. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I have friends that do that, and if I'm around them, if the police pull us over, my mouth is sealed shut regardless. But that, like, I minimize the amount of time I put myself in those positions. I don't really do anything that I need to be have any worry about, and accountability is just there. If I say I'm gonna do something, I can do it. I can honestly say for the first time in my life, I'm a man of my word. And that right there, that's for like you say, it's admirable to me. Like that's like basic human decorum. That's how you're
Yeah.
supposed to be like a functioning part of society. But I never got down like that. So for me, that's part of the complete psychic change. Because like I said, like before we got cut off, me not using drugs is just the beginning. I need to not operate and live like a drug addict.
Hmm. Yeah, and I guess like living in that honest truth is like one of the biggest steps towards that. Um,
Yeah,
so the third step, I'm not really super familiar with all the steps, but you said this is God's will.
yeah. It's essentially like made a conscious decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, and as we understand Him. Now, I think that like the second and third step are tend to be when a lot of people that who are embarking on the path of 12-step recovery tend to pivot because they're like, whoa, 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 God, what is that? I'm not Christian, I'm not Jew, I'm not
Yeah.
Jewish, I'm not Muslim, like I don't
Yeah.
believe in God. And that right there can be a big, that's where people would be like, it's like the quickest way to be able to write off the 12 steps is like, yo, that's that fucking weirdo cult religious shit. But to me, like the way I look at it, and a mechanism that I was taught that helps me deal with that and override it. Like for me, it's a little bit different because I am spiritual. You know what I mean? Like I consider myself a Christian. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
believe in God, and I know that spirituality and religion are not mutually exclusive. But it just for me, it wasn't really hard for me to. And also, I'll say this: like there's so many times in my life where there's no logical explanation for why I'm alive. And like there is obviously a greater force at work because like the amount of drugs that I've done, the amount of times that I've overdosed, the amount of times that I've had, like literally I've had hits on my head from the Mexican mafia. I've had
Yeah.
gangs that wanted to smoke me. I had, people that I screwed over and finessed and robbed for a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and we're in a lot. There's no logical reason why I was able to survive all of that relatively unscathed. And I attribute that 100% to God. Now, one thing, the first thing I had to do is kind of recalibrate what my old ideas and new ideas of God were. Because previous to getting sober, I kind of looked at God as like the genie in the lamp. It would be like if
Totally.
I was no stranger to foxhole prayers. My
Yeah.
back's against the wall. The police are pulling me over. This girl wants to leave me. I'm about to do time. I'm about to get excommunicated from battle rap for the umpteenth time. Whatever it is, like that's when I hit my knees. That's when I'm praying, and that's when I want God to just kind of come and rescue me. And one of two things will happen: either it'll work out and God will do it, and then like I just put him back in his bottle and I don't ask him for anything again, don't even thank him, you know what I mean? Or God doesn't show up and I have an excuse to be like, well, fuck God.
Mm.
It's one of
Interesting.
two things that would happen. I looked at God as something that was vengeful. That if I don't ask God to forgive me for my sins, He's gonna strike down with the with the wrath of Zeus or whatever, you know what I'm saying, and the hammer of Thor, and it's gonna smite me, and I'm gonna suffer as a result, and probably go to hell when I die. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
these are the ideas that I had about God, which, as crazy as they sound, like that's pretty common ways that people look at God. You know what I mean? Like this omnipotent, like fearful concept. Now, when I got sober and I started really thinking about God and why would how what would be allowing me to still be alive. Obviously there's a purpose for me to be here or else I wouldn't be here. And there's so many things that science at the end of the day cannot explain. And there's like that indefinable that undefinable variable that is God. And my ideas of God at that point were God is loving, God is caring, God is accepting, God is forgiving, God is present, and God is tolerant. And if God is all of these things, and I want to be more like God, let's say I don't even believe in God, but I believe in being a better person, being the best version of myself, being a version of myself that isn't living like a drug addict, operating in the lizard brain, as we've discussed before. You know what I mean? Like the lowest possible vibration, just looking for
Mm.
food, shelter, carnal pleasures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all that, unable to see beyond the scope of my immediate needs and just trying to think about how my actions affect those around me, how my actions affect those that I love, how my actions affect strangers, you know what I mean? And the world at large, especially being somebody that has a voice in the world, be it ever so big, be it ever so small, a voice that other people are hearing. There's people in here. beyond you, there's a bunch of people watching us right now, a
Yeah.
couple dozen people watching us right now, and we're like, so that bears an even greater responsibility. So at that point, then I realize that if I want to do that, and these are the traits that I envision God to have and envision a better version of me to have, what I need to do is embody these traits within myself. I need to be more loving. I need to be more caring. I need to be more present. I need to be more tolerant. I need to be more accepting, and I need to be more forgiving.
It's
And
interesting.
if I'm doing these things, and it could be different for you. You might have a different idea of what God is as far as those characteristics. You could throw patience in there. You know what I mean? You could throw there's a lot. To me, those are like the
Yeah.
six fundamental characteristics because I feel like there's elements of patience in there. There's elements of strength, elements of integrity.
Yeah.
It's the way I break it down. It's of those characteristics, and if I'm embodying them, I'm taking steps, no pun intended, to being a better man, to maximizing my potential as a human being. And I'm at that point more useful to the world, and I'm adding more positivity to the stream of life than I am taking away from it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's kind of the goal that everybody has, right? Of like, we want to leave this earth better than when we entered it. I think that's a big goal of mine. And I feel like a lot of people strive to do that. So you talk a lot about being present, being more loving, like just being an overall higher version of yourself, operating on a higher frequency, and attributing that to being spiritual, which that resonates a lot with me. How do you go about that? For a lot of people in here, people do ask me all the time, like, how do I get more love into my life? How do I avoid depression, anxiety? How do you try to be a better version of yourself every day?
Well, here's how I started because it's kind of like it's a process. It's not something that I intrinsically learned overnight, and it's something that I needed to like first off before I get into the specifics, like what I need to do personally on a daily basis is when I wake up, show gratitude. I if you don't want to thank God, you could just, thank the universe or just make a list simply of what you're grateful for. What are 10 things that you're grateful for? Like I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for sobriety. I'm grateful for music. I'm grateful for the opportunity to host this tournament on King of the Dot. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my fiance and how understanding she is of me. And I'm grateful to have food, shelter, and a means of supporting myself. You know what I mean? Like that expression of gratitude, meditation and prayer to start off the day before I indulge in the melee of social media, because it's like my instinct to just wake up, look at my phone, and look up, see who's winning the damn election right now, see
Yeah.
what people are saying about my new music video that I put out, see what people are saying about the tournament, see if how many likes my post on Instagram got, and
Yeah,
before
man,
I
that's
am
that's the roughest thing about being in the entertainment industry, and I think especially as you being an entertainer is not being available to everybody at the snap of their fingers, and also because that can resonate with you too. Like you said, it's like I do the same thing. Like I'm not on social media currently, but when I was, and when it was also on my phone, I agree. That's like the first thing I would do is I would wake up and read, and then you're enveloping all these people's opinions, all these people's thoughts, some thoughts about you as your own, and then that like can affect your day so much. So I know as an entertainer how difficult it must be to walk that tightrope of having a healthy relationship with social media.
Yeah, 100%. Because, like, instantly, what you're doing is you're seeing messages that say you are not good enough. You
Yeah.
are less than. This person is more popular than you, has more likes than you, is more valuable than you, is
Yeah.
more interesting. They're a higher tier of human being than you. Like, oh, like you're putting in all this work organizing this battle rap event, and it's not as important as this other one. And these people that are doing this are better than you. And you're like, no matter, even I could be putting my heart and soul into something, and then it's on the chopping block essentially for people to critique. And it's not, and they're either going to love it or they're not. But at the end of the day, that doesn't define me as a human being. And if I go into, if I just, before I arm myself with like the spiritual defense mechanism of knowing what's real and being in tune with the universe and sharpening my relationship with God and those that care about me before I enter that realm, I'm pretty much it's like it's like going, it's like that nightmare where you go to school butt booty naked.
Yeah.
Best way I
Yeah.
could equate it.
I can see that.
So just
Um,
starting off with that to start my day, and then like when I first kind of came to grasp with this concept of what the third step was and these six different attributes that I believe God to have that I want to encompass within myself. This might sound corny, but I was like, I'm gonna master one at a time. Okay, so my first day, I was like, I wrote the word loving on my hand. And I was like, okay, so for the whole day, I'm just gonna focus on being loving. You know what I mean? And when things pop up where I wanna talk shit about somebody because it's funny, and we all like, I'll just look at my hand. I'll be like, oh, I gotta be loving today. You know what I mean? I gotta be loving. Like that's not being loving. When I wanna do I want to do I want to play a game of cards as opposed to talk to this other person who's struggling right now? No, let's be loving. I can play spades later. It's whatever. You feel me? I'll break all these fools anyway. Let me let me focus on being loving real quick and talk to and help somebody else. You know, someone when someone's feeling down, instead of just walking by and doing my thing, trying to uplift them. And then obviously there'll be times when I'll fall short. I'll find myself indulging in gossip or hating on somebody. And then, like, okay, so, but I tried my best to be loving. And then at the end of the day, I would write like a little a 3 paragraph paper on my experience, like why being loving is important characteristic that I want to embody, how I was successful today in being loving and how I fell short. Next day, do the same thing with being caring. Following day, do that with being tolerant, then being present, then being forgiving, then being accepting. And acceptance is one of the most important ones for me because, at the end of the day, acceptance is like kind of overrides when things inevitably don't go the way I want them to, when things aren't moving at the speed that I want them to, and I feel like I deserve more, this or that. If I'm accepting of my current situation as well as present, that's called being present as well. But if I'm accepting of what's going on, then I'm gonna be okay at the end of the day, as long as I have acceptance.
how do you? What does that look like? Acceptance.
Um, Accepting that not everybody is going to see things the way I do. I used to feel like this need to, I would feel attacked by people on the internet. There's like entire websites dedicated to my destruction, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's websites that for some reason felt so upset by my existence, for lack of a better word, that they would go out of their way. If they would have sent police officers to my crib, they would have like wished death upon my family members. They would have wished my relationship to fail, whatever could go bad, that so they could just kick back. Maybe because I seemed like I was such a that I lived so much of my life on the internet, and they could just kind of enjoy the Truman Show, and it's a lot more entertaining to watch somebody in the midst of self destruction. Maybe because I fought back on them, and that's kind of like, like poking a hornet's nest or whatever. You know what I mean? Like all these things. So I would always feel the need to defend myself,
Yeah.
and what that would manifest as is like angry tirades on the internet, arguing with people, going back and forth for hours. Like people could say the nicest thing about me online, and I would just give it a like. You know what I mean? Wouldn't even say shit. But if you said something bad about me, I would spend hours trying to alter your perception on that. And now, what I strive for, and I'm not perfect, it happens every once in a while. Well, I'll step out of character and indulge in these conversations, but me accepting that other people are entitled to their reality
Mm.
and there's nothing I can do or say that's going to change that. That's the way this person is. And kind of just like that right there is like Neo in the Matrix. Everything starts moving in slow motion at that point.
That's interesting. That's really cool.
You could dodge the bullets coming at you, because they don't really exist. They only are as powerful as I allow them to be.
Yeah. And by inherently arguing with people online, you give that argument more power. It like grows not even more power to that person, but you give it power to yourself. Like
Yeah,
because it
that turns a 22 to a 45 instantly.
yeah, 100%. Um yeah, I mean, I definitely know what you're talking about, with all the stuff I've been going through recently, like the entire battle community thinking I'm racist, like people I've worked with for years, like, having line then full on rounds about me, attributing me to the people that murdered George Floyd and stuff that is a bit extreme. I can definitely empathize with. Entire things feeling like they're against you, especially something that you love and care about a lot. But yeah, not giving it that power, and also what you said is really true about letting people live in their own truths and having people just have different perspectives. It's fine that a lot of people in the battle community don't like me right now. Like that's fine because they're entitled to their opinion. They're entitled to their perspective, no matter if I agree with it or not. But they are completely entitled to it. So sometimes as an entertainer, I've definitely seen you go through that where there's people that just literally just seem like they enjoy just preying on you overall. And it's because I think you've been in the limelight so much of your traumas, of your struggles, your ups and downs. And I think people just love to pick at the low hanging fruit. Honestly, people like love an easy argument. It's easy to
Hmm.
chastise somebody for something they did a long time ago rather than look at the actions they've done up until the point in time right now. It's easy to be like, oh, Lush is a drug addict, and just like write you
Hmm.
off like super easy, rather than being like, oh, Lush is a human being. He's a very complex person. Um, yeah, man, totally empathize with all
It's like
that.
middle school gym class dynamics, essentially. You know what I mean? Like it's like throw the dodgeball at the fat kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
totally.
and in reference to what you just said, and I'm the fat kid, by the way. I've been definitely putting on some nice sobriety weight, which I'm kind of happy about. Actually, I like
Hey,
it.
man, everybody in the chat right now is saying how healthy you look. So be proud of that.
I appreciate that, but healthy could also be a synonym for shapely.
I think you look great.
Thank you. I'll take it. I was getting super. I was looking. I had like organics cheekbones, but not his frame, and was not wearing it well.
Word.
Yeah, because he pulls that off. I'm not supposed to look like that. But what you said essentially about what you said about like needing to you did the best thing for yourself in that situation, which was to completely unplug and just remove yourself from like you weren't a lot. And it's not like you weren't taking accountability. You're willing to have the conversation with anybody, but just you don't need to like put yourself in the line of fire to be abused by people that are just opportunistically looking to elevate themselves by cutting you down.
Yeah, very true. Um, yeah, I wanted to ask you this because I saw this kind of happening like at these past couple events, and I get asked this question a lot. People always ask me, how do I stay sober being around people that are partaking in alcohol so much? And I definitely saw like Dutch Vega. I don't even know if I should have said his name, but Dutch Vega. Salute to Dutch Vega. He was
Saw
pouring
me.
he was pouring alcohol and like giving it to somebody right beside you, and you're just sitting there. And I was like, man, this is kind of fucked up. If they know he's sober and they're like flaunting it in front of him, and then Dutch is pouring, and then you're like, none for me. I'll drink this Fanta here. It's probably worse than that. Like making a joke about it, which I thought was like super. I don't know. I thought that was like really awesome. And then he was just like, "Yeah, yeah, you better be sober," But I was like, man, it's crazy, like that they know that you're like you're addicted to this, and it's almost like they're kind of pushing you a little bit, like not really being the most caring with your addiction. So I wanted to ask you that, like, how do you feel going to these events and people are just like drinking a lot, like they're binge drinking during these shoots, and smoking too, because I know that weed was a big addiction of yours, excuse me. And like when you're like it's in the air, you can smell it, like how do you deal with that?
Just a freebie secondhand high. No, what nah, what a free lapse, baby. Nah. What the thing is, my sobriety is nobody else's responsibility. And a lot of my friends and a lot of my constituents and coworkers and colleagues in the hip hop music world and battle rap, they are not drug addicts or alcoholics. And even if they are, that's they're they're not in sobriety. So I would rather be around the people that I care about and have them be comfortable and not have to alter their behavioral patterns just to placate and pacify me. You know what I mean? I'd rather them be comfortable and be themselves. I'd feel more. I have other friends that do more drugs than I'm exposed to at the events. I've seen people doing hell of lines in front of me, and like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, of coke and like drugs that I have a way more serious problem with than just drinking or whatever, which is a problem for me too. But if I wasn't doing my daily disciplines, if I wasn't working hard in my recovery on a daily basis, then I would be susceptible to that.
Yeah.
But since I am, it even says that in the big book of AA. Like, you know what I mean? You could go, I could be around whoever, doing whatever. It won't even, it doesn't affect me in the slightest. When the homies were doing that at the event, pouring up right in front of me, I didn't have an inkling. It's just not on the table for me. It's like being allergic to a certain food. Like everybody's eating peanut butter sandwiches in front of me, but I'm allergic to peanut butter. Like I'm not going
Yeah.
to eat it because it's not even in my repertoire of thought. This is not what I do. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if let's say I'm at a gay bar and all the dudes start kissing, like I'm not gay, so I'm not going to start. Oh, I wish I could kiss somebody right now. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, it's like using for me is not even. It's not an option, so it doesn't affect me. But if I didn't, I'm also not arrogant to the point where I think that it can't have an effect on me. So what I need to do is stay spiritually fit, like keep my spiritual currency up in the bank, have that spiritual armor on. So when situations like that pop up, I'm not tempted.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good answer.
Because it really, I mean, like just like you, like it don't bug you to be around that shit. It don't bug me, and I'm actually now it's crazy. Like this is the first time I never have to search for what I want to say. Like I don't need to like me being excited and turned up. Like, you still see I'm the same guy when I host battles. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm the same guy when I rap. I'm just like a little bit more on beat and sharper with it. Just like I'm a little bit more sharper with what I need to do when organizing events. I'm sure, like like you have a better perspective than me. Is it easier to work with me now or before? Yeah, you
Definitely.
feel
I
me?
mean, definitely now, of course. Um, so Dangles had a question for you, and he says, "How do you deal with the anxiety of relapsing or the fear of taking steps backwards of recovery progression?"
Say that again. That's a good question, but I just want to make sure.
How do you deal with the anxiety of relapsing or the fear of taking steps backwards of recovery and progression?
I don't really have anxiety around that. You know what I mean? I don't fear a relapse because I know that if I continue to do what I'm good, if I continue to embark on the path that I'm walking, I'm not going to relapse. Now, here's the cool part about it. It's not a matter of if I'm going to relapse. It's a matter of when. I
Yeah.
am going to relapse. 100%. I'm finna relapse. If I don't do what it says in this book, if I don't follow my disciplines, if I don't work the steps, if I don't maintain conscious contact with God, my higher power, to walk this line of sobriety, I'm going to relapse. It's not even a question. But if I do exactly what I'm supposed to do and follow the what's outlined in this recovery program, I am 100% going to stay sober. Because that's the thing. Like, if you, like, the reason why people in 12-step programs relapse is because they stop doing the work. It's not because, like 100% of the time, if you follow what it says in that book and live it to a T, the success rate is 100%. And if you don't, it's because you're not doing one thing or the other. You can't pick and choose. I can't say, well, I don't need to work the ninth step. I don't need to make amends to people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to do the 12 step. I don't need to carry the message. If you don't do one of those steps, I'm gonna fucking relapse. That simple. Now imagine, let's say my dick was gonna fall off, right? My dick was going to fall off. And there's a book. And if I read this book and did what this book said, my dick is not gonna fall off. I'm gonna read that book front to back, footnotes, all the liner notes. I'm gonna be making notes in there. I'm gonna look at. I'm gonna know what year the book was printed. I'm gonna know the forward, the epilogue, the prologue, the whole damn book by heart because I don't want my dick to fall off. Now that's how. The reason why I'm sober is because I'm desperate to be sober. Because if I'm not sober, I'm going to die. I was going to die. I was on the path. I was suicidal, and I was in a race for if I could kill myself or the drugs could kill myself or a situation I got myself into in the streets was going to kill me first. That's it. That's the gold, the bronze, and the silver medalist right there. Just didn't know who was going to win the race. You know what I mean? But it was getting close to the end. I was going to die, and you were going to be doing memorials about me on Ruin Your Day if I was lucky at best. And I know that's sad to think about, but that's a Fendi fact right there. And I need like so that desperation to not only keep my dick but keep my life. That's how I got sober. That's why I'm sober. That's why I don't have enough of an ego or even a mechanism within me to question why I need to turn my life over to God because I can't control my life myself. And when I try to steer the ship, it crashes every single time. And the duration, like the interim amount of time between when it crashed was less and less. And the severity of the crash was more and more. And I couldn't rebuild the ship in time to get back in the waters.
Word.
Arr, matey.
Word. That's dope. And a pretty explicit but good analogy. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you know what? I gotta give. I gotta give that. Give credit for that. That was from Caddy Ron right there. That's just something. A device that Caddy used to always say when he would speak at AA meetings. The dick falling off analogy, and we never got to be sober together, but I still use that because it's really powerful and it's a testament to his knowledge of the program. And at his best, he was able to maintain like 6 7 years of sobriety. So
Yeah.
if he hadn't, and the reason why he fell off is because he stopped doing what the program said. He stopped following direction, and you know what I mean. And that could happen to me. That could happen to anybody else. That's why we gotta. That's why I gotta stay tapped in. Gotta stay dialed in. Gotta stay focused.
Yeah, for real. Like once you deviate from the set schedule or even yourself, you can find yourself getting a sense of euphoria. Just like you said, it's like when I heard this person talk this is kind of embarrassing, but I was watching Joe Rogan and Matthew McConaughey, and he was talking about he's been journaling for the past 30 years, and he was saying when he first started to like journal a lot was because shit was really good for him, and he was noticing that he doesn't journal whenever stuff is really good. He only journals when stuff
Huh.
is really bad. And so he started just journaling during those times, and I feel like that can be applied to addiction because oftentimes I don't really feel the need to like use or anything like that when shit's really bad. I more feel like just like the feeling of uncomfortability and trying my hardest to live in it and just like let it pass, knowing that feelings are transient and they'll move through you. But when shit's really good, sometimes it does feel like you can get a little cocky, right? And like,
That's it.
you
That's it,
know,
and that's why it's important for me to keep my first step experience, what my addiction looked like at its lowest point. I need to keep that close to heart, and that's why it's important also for me. Like when I work with other addicts that are newer in recovery, not only am I helping them by reaching out and sharing my experience, strength, and hope, but I'm soaking up game from them because they are living their first step experience. They're in the throes of unmanageability, and that reminds me of what it was like for me. And when I lose sight of that, that's when I could get potentially cocky. That's when my dick could fall off, because I'm not reading the book anymore.
yeah, yeah. So, you go to meetings, right, out in Philly?
Yes, sir.
Um, is it to the point that if you traveled, would you try to find a meeting to go to?
100% I would, but here's the thing. Right now, due to this pandemic, everything is online. And when I got
Oh,
sober, like all these meetings exist in Zoom. I've only been to a handful of meetings in person since I got sober, you know what I mean? But I go to and the cool thing about going to Zoom meetings, like I could be in my drawers if I want to. You won't even know. I'm just
yeah.
gonna keep the camera from the waist up. I don't have to leave the house. I don't even have to brush my damn teeth. Like it's amazing. But yes, like ideally when the world opens up again, I would be, no matter where I'm at, tapping into an AA or an NA meeting. But I do go several times a week. During the beginning, during my first 5-6 months of sobriety, I was going almost daily, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. Now I go about 5 times a week, sometimes more. Sometimes I go like up to 7 times a week. But yeah, it's an important part of my recovery process, and something that when I feel, that's my church. When I feel out of sorts, when I feel in disarray, just being in a meeting, and something about those meetings, like if I go to a meeting with an open mind and an open heart, it don't matter if it's the lowest bottom of the media. Like it's just a bunch of, I could be at the Salvation Army with a bunch of crackheads that are fresh out of county jail and lost their families, and everything's going all bad, and there's not more than 3 months of sobriety time combined between everyone in there. Or I could be at some super high end swanky meeting with a bunch of businessmen, you know what I mean, wearing suits and all that. And if I have an open mind and an open heart, I will gain something from it. I will hear something that resonates, and I will leave with a stronger sense of my recovery no matter what. If I go in there with an ego, if I go in there judgmental or closed off, then I'm not going to gain anything from it. So I really try to open my heart before I step in the rooms.
Hell yeah. Congrats, Blue. 43 days, no alcohol. And also,
Let's go.
congrats to Faint Resemblance. Um,
Mm.
9 months this Sunday, only by the grace of NA and its fellowship. I've done 500 plus meetings on Zoom since February. Jesus.
It's amazing.
That's incredible. Congrats to both of you individuals. Um, does
Because you
the
know it's true, it ain't fake progression. Shouts to Blue and Faint Resemblance. Yo, play a partner Uno. Y'all got a little intro shout
Yeah,
out. You feel me?
that's amazing. Fuck yeah. He usually charges 5 figures for that.
Yeah, no, it's going up, baby.
So how's Philly? How's living out there?
Philly's great. I get to be with my fiance every day. When I was in treatment and I wasn't sure if she wanted to even stay with me because of everything I'd put her through with my addiction, and I wasn't, like that's something I prayed about on a daily basis. And it's amazing that everything that I've been praying for and striving for has come true, like having her in my life, having a solid relationship with my family, having a solid relationship with my friends, having the people that I had fell off with slowly mending those relationships one by one, having, going into treatment where I was lying and telling people I had a record deal and was like a big deal when I really didn't, and now actually having a record deal, having nothing going on in the world of battle rap, to having this opportunity to host this King of the Dot tournament on Twitch, and like having all these things come to fruition. It's like that's the promises right there.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Do you guys have any questions you want to ask Lush? We'll open the chat up, see if they want to ask you
Don't
anything.
hesitate.
Um, yeah, I didn't see any questions, but yeah, I mean, I definitely echo what you're saying about spirituality in AA, and a lot of people have misconceptions about what that actually truthfully means, because a lot of people have a knee-jerk reaction to be like, "Oh, it's God, it's religion, it's Christianity." I'm not a Christian, so this doesn't apply to me. Um, so Kyle, I know it's not as substantial, but I haven't smoked a cigarette since May 9th last year. Although I still do vape, do you guys
Amazing.
consider that a good stepping stone?
It's a great stepping stone.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. It's
That's
a step in the
amazing.
right direction. I'll answer a couple of these other questions too. Was I fanboying over Ice T? I don't really. I mean, in my head, 100%. Ice T was the first rapper I ever heard in my life. I was 4 years old. My middle brother, showed me "6 in the Morning" by Ice T, and it forever changed my life. He's a huge influence on me from day one. But I'm able to compartmentalize that and just keep it professional and just be a regular human being, because at the end of the day, I don't look down on people when they look up to me. So at the end of the day, we're all equal. So I was able to just keep it thorough, and I feel like now we have a level of mutual respect. But at the end of the day, like, he's definitely someone that I've idolized for a long time. So I was super psyched to get to chop it up with him, as well as Tretch, Immortal Technique, all those dudes. Um, to answer another question, would you reunite with Matt Ills? What I will say is this: that's actually a good question, because it you could look at it as both the fourth step and the eighth step. um, that's somebody that I have resentments towards, and that is somebody that I would like to make amends to in different regards. And I no longer have a resentment towards him, but I definitely did. And it was through that's something that I wrote a four-step inventory on and shared in my fifth step inventory. And when I was finished with my fifth step discussing Matt Ills, I realized so many of the things, like what I became aware of is my part and what I did wrong in those situations. And like when grind time fell apart, all I did the whole time is point fingers at everybody else and never really acknowledged and took responsibility for my part in that situation. And that's when I realized that. And as long as I make right what I've done wrong and acknowledge that, nothing else really matters, because I'm not responsible for the next man's emotions or actions. But I don't harbor any resentment towards Matt Ills anymore, and I would like to have a conversation with him and try to get on the same page. I recently spoke to a mutual friend about that. We'll see if it happens. We've kind of tried to bury the hatchet a few times over the years, but I definitely wasn't in a spiritually fit place. To the person that said he wants to hear the story of the last dope run, that's for another time, but I would definitely discuss that with you. Everything that I rap about in my music is based on reality and real situations. And so it's funny, what I will say about that is I made that song with Thesaurus and Philip Drummond back in 2008, and I thought that I was going to be done with selling drugs back then, but compared to what happened in the following 11, 12 years, that wasn't even the beginning yet.
What's more of an
Um,
accomplishment, not smoking a cigarette for 4 years, or not even realizing it's been 4 years since the last one until someone else brings it up? That's pretty dope.
I think anything you're doing to better yourself And when it becomes like, I think just I think stopping is a huge part, but probably the fact that you don't even have to think about it because you're no longer a slave to your addiction anymore, and you could live without even the freedom, with the freedom of not even having to acknowledge the fact that you're not smoking. It's not even a day of being smoke free; it's a day of just existing, and I think that right there is incredible.
Hell yeah. Let's see. Any other ones that you see that you want to dive into?
I'm taking a little look. Lush, do you feel you had underlying mental health that contributed to your addiction? Absolutely. You know what I mean? And it's yeah, I kind of touched on that in the original stream before it got cut off. I had a lot of I had a lot of I always had an inability to, just a lot of deep seated insecurities, inability to properly process my emotions, and senses, and just like a rampant sense of entitlement, and proclivity to just to be very dishonest. I would say, like, almost like, dare I say, like, borderline narcissist tendencies that were very dangerous, as well as, I've been diagnosed with depression, as manic depression, with bipolar disorder, ADHD, everything under the sun, and at a young age was being prescribed medication. So pills were always looked at as a way to fix things, and I very quickly started abusing them, and then putting a substance in my body to achieve a result became just, so it became second nature for me, to the point where if I didn't do it, it wasn't right. My parents became indoctrinated by the mental health system and thought that I needed that, and then it just slowly unraveled from there, to the point where now, like, I could easily justify being on all different types of medication, but I don't want to do it because for me, that's just a part of that'll just kickstart my addiction. So I don't even take melatonin or anything like that. I don't take CBD.
Yeah, I feel like it's too close,
For me, it is.
Like Clayton the other day, he's like, "Dude, he's like, is CBD off limits?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't do that because I don't need it. Like, you don't need CBD, especially if I'm an, I'm an addict to begin with. It's like I definitely don't need another thing, and I'm kind of just like like I don't take any medication. I don't take Advil if I have a headache. I don't really ever have headaches. I don't drink coffee. I drink a lot of tea, which is probably not the best thing, but I just drink water. And I feel like that's also just generally the healthiest thing. I've also kind of shied away from like Western medicine in general because I feel like that will cause more health problems overall than it will help. I just have
Yeah,
always kind of felt like that.
100%. Little off topic question. There's a bunch of good questions. One person asked, "Will I ever tell my whole story?" Absolutely, but get some popcorn. In fact, cook a meal, because that'll take a few hours easily. Even when I share at meetings, when I tell my story, it's never enough time because, you know, um, it's pretty deeply involved. Jeeks asked, "How did you meet? How did you meet Rissy?" Sorry if this has been discussed. I'll just say it because it's kind of a fun little story. So one day, an Instagram account started following me, and I thought it was a catfish because I was like, "Oh, this girl don't even look like a real girl. She's a little bit too pretty. Something looks off. I think this is a catfish." Clicked on her account, and I saw, oh, okay, she's an artist. It had like, oh, as appears on Billboard charts, blah 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 blah, music artist. It's like, oh, okay, no, it's a real person. I saw that mutual friends followed her and stuff. I was like, okay, so I followed back. Didn't really chop it up with her, and then at the Massacre 3 events, about a less than a year after that, um, I saw this beautiful girl that was in the little like VIP area, and I was always trying to get next to her. Like, those things where there'll be a conversation and you kind of try to put yourself as part of the same conversation because you want that person to acknowledge you. And like, no matter what, like I'm like 5 inches from this girl the whole damn night, and she won't even look in my general direction. I can't get eye contact out of her, but she was by far the baddest chick there. It was like everything else. She was like lit up, and everything else was just like in black and white, and she was in full color. And then after the event, we're hanging out. She finally acknowledged me, said, "Lush one." I was like, "Oh, you do? How you know who I am?" And then I put two and two together. It's the same girl that follows me online. And we wound up becoming friends, but well, I was involved in another relationship at the time that was deteriorating and was about to be over. But so we didn't really like pursue anything right away. Later that year, after my relationship fell apart, I did kind of try to get at her, and she seemed like she was with it, but then she kind of pump faked on me. Um, uh, she's over in the corner, mean mugging me right now. But this is exactly what happened. Just to keep it a
No, but
butt.
I followed you on Twitter for years.
Yeah, you had
Because I
followed
didn't
me on
watch
Twitter
them.
for
Yeah.
years, whatever. But she did kind
No,
of pump fake,
it was Facebook.
whatever.
Because
Like,
I didn't
no,
friend you on Facebook.
no, we were friends on Facebook. I
Okay.
asked you if you would go out with me, and you said
Yeah.
yeah. And then we were talking, and then one day I was at Neiman Marcus, like buying like some gear, and she hits me up. She's like, "Yo, can you talk real quick?" I'm like, nah, I'm kind of busy, but yeah, what's up?" She's like, "Well, I don't really see myself moving to LA. I don't think we can date." I'm like, what? Like, I'm not fucking dating you. Like, is this chick actually breaking up with me before we're ever even dating? Like, how is this a thing? And then so I was kind of depressed about that for a while, and I was kind of in a dark period. And then one day, it was the following Easter of 2019, I wound up sending her a random text message. I said "Happy Easter" with a little emoji, and then we struck up a conversation. About 15 minutes later, I realized she was flirting with me. We started chopping it up big, and then within like a week and a half, she's on a flight to LA, and we're been inseparable ever since.
Nice. Hell yeah. You guys are the best, by the way. I love you as a
Aw.
It's
couple.
all her.
Of
Love you, avocado.
course.
Yep.
Any other questions that catch your fancy?
Let me see, because we should try to get. See, battles are judged, Mark. We're doing a judge tournament right now, brother. You've been hosting forever. How was that experience? I mean, how many dope battles you were there, Quarter? And what was the whole experience like? I was just happy to see Lush over Mozzie. No diss. Yeah, it's been awesome hosting battles for sure. And like one thing I'll say about that, to kind of relate it to the topic at hand, is being able to be present for these moments and not just have them be kind of like brief little fleeting thoughts that appear in my mind, kind of disjointed, and being able to really absorb the full gravity of the moment because I'm present for it is a huge blessing that I'm very grateful for. That I was never sober at any of those battles, anything I was doing. So I didn't even get to really like feel them. I didn't really get to feel any of the the sense of accomplishment. Everything was just distorted, and to be able to be present for these moments in hip hop history that I am helping contribute to is the coolest thing ever. And if there's one thing I wish I could take back, it'd be that. But if I took back anything, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So there ain't no regrets.
Really, yeah. All right. Any parting words or anything, Lush?
Well, I appreciate everybody for allowing me to an avocado to have this time, my boy Kyle, to chop it up with y'all, and hopefully somebody gleams something from this. If anybody is struggling or is interested in pursuing avenues of recovery and wants to learn more about it, I'm always open to those conversations. Please don't hesitate to reach out. You know what I mean? Hopefully, by the grace of God, Kyle and I will be doing this more, and I hope all of y'all stay strong during these turbulent times, traversing this murky water in a brave new world that we are existing in. And just know that if better days are ahead for me, they're ahead for you as well.
Hell yeah. All right, Lush. Thanks again for coming on, bro. You're the fucking man. Super hyped we got this whole setup working. And yeah, I will maybe see you this weekend, maybe not.
It'd
We'll
be
see.
awesome. Pop up in the Illadelph.
Hell yeah. Alrighty, man. We'll take it easy. Thank you to everybody joining us in the chat. I will see you next Wednesday or tomorrow night. Ruin a game, ruin your game with myself, Eddie I. We're gonna play some video games. It's gonna be wild. Tune in live. Peace.